The Dog and Deuce Show is produced by Dymar Productions in association with Studio B Productions.
Welcome to Utah's longest-running sports podcast. This is Dog and Deuce. Every week, we are right here to take a deep dive into the Utah Jazz, the Utes, the Cougars, the Aggies, and everything in between. On this episode, you got to dig out your luckiest shirt because the Utah Jazz need all the help they can get right now. They've dropped multiple games in a row to quality teams. This could be growing pains, or it could be a serious cause for concern. We will diagnose the problem. Plus, the NCAA basketball tournament comes to an end. The Masters gets underway. Sean Miller is out at Arizona, and we begrudgingly crown our champion. We've got all that and a whole lot more coming your way on Dog and Deuce, number 363.
Studio B in Salt Lake City, this is Dog and Deuce. Join the conversation at doganddeuce.com or send an email to doganddeuce@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening to episode 363 of the Dog and Deuce Show. If you want to know more, and I sure hope you do, follow along with the show notes at doganddeuce.com.
You can watch this show all weekend long on your television, on K-Patter TV, or if you are in Southern Utah, you can watch on Backcountry TV. And as always, you can listen wherever you get your favorite podcasts. We would love to hear from you. Send us an email to doganddeuce@gmail.com. I am Dog.
And I'm Deuce.
And this is episode 363 of Dog and Deuce. Lots to talk about today, as usual. The Masters is getting underway. We are getting into the boring long days of sports where there's nothing but golf and baseball. So enjoy basketball while it's on.
Soccer. Calm down. Come on now.
I mean, yeah, soccer. I like soccer. I like it when it's played well. We've talked about this many times over the years. It's super fun when it's played well. It's not so fun. It sucks. It's awful when it's played poorly.
You got to get into some baseball, man. Although the NBA is going to be going till July this year.
Thank
so you still have
the basketball gods.
A few months of that. 4 months of that.
Thank the basketball gods for that one, because it'd be tough. We're going to talk March Madness. We're going to crown our champion of our bracket. We'll announce who came out on top. If you're a part of the bracket, you already know, but we will get into that. Sean Miller is out at Arizona, of course. But most importantly to us right now, Utah Jazz talk, as always. Dropped a couple in a row to quality teams. Dallas they're surging. They're not, again, what they were last season. They're not what a lot of people expected them to be, but they are surging, and they dropped a tough one to them. Then they followed up with an overtime loss to Phoenix, and we will get into the Phoenix discussion. I just want to mention a couple things about Dallas. The Dallas game, I was a little concerned about that because that was just flat out. I mean, you miss shots. And that's going to happen. You're going to go through streaks where you miss shots. And they did. The Jazz did. But they also, there wasn't much fight. They threw in the towel quite early in that game. They were getting pushed around physically as well. And we actually got a voicemail from Jess. And she watched the game. And she had some I watched it with her. She was pretty passionate during this game. Let me play this voicemail.
Hey guys, it's Jess, aka Alan's lady. So I'm calling in because I want to talk about the game that happened on Monday and the fact that I think the Dallas Mavericks were being and playing dirty. I felt like the entire game, all I saw was elbows being thrown, people hitting Donovan in the face, like so many instances where it could have been flagrant. And I just didn't really see the response to like how angry they were playing, especially with Luka. Okay, say his last name. But anyway, that guy, he just seemed really enraged to me, and I'm curious if anybody else felt this way while they were watching the game. But the main point is, I think that they played dirty, and that was all I wanted to say. So you guys are great. Alan, you're pretty cute.
I am pretty cute. I'm damn cute. No. What did you think? Because I was watching it. She was a little bit more upset about all this while we were watching it than I was. But the more, like, when she brought it to my attention, I think she's right. What did you think about the Mavericks play that night on Monday?
I mean, that game was definitely chippy, right? I mean, there's no question about it. There was more than the modern day NBA game that was chippy. So I agree with her in that context. The thing that does sort of concern me about the Jazz is, and I don't want them to devolve into this, but they don't complain a lot. But it seems recently, especially as they've been able to maintain the number 1 seed, the complaining's become a lot more frequent. They feel like it appears, at least from the outside, that they feel like they should have earned that respect, right? Of like a super team, so to speak, because they're in first place. And so the complaints are there. But I agree with Jess. I mean, that Mavs game, I don't know if I'd call it dirty, but it was definitely more chippy than your common day NBA game in 2021. And the Jazz didn't really have a response, for sure. I would agree with that as well.
Yeah, I agree on both counts. I didn't think Luka was playing as dirty, but man, that guy complains a lot. And I before this game, Luka was one of the superstars. I was like, I really like him. But after watching that game, I'm like, dude, like, he complains more than Joe Ingles, which is tough to do. You know, like, it's every play. But there were, like, Melly, I thought he was playing pretty dirty. Tim Hardaway Jr. was playing a little dirty. And I don't want to say dirty. They were playing old school basketball. And it was very physical. And there were some cheap shots, for sure. Like, going back and rewatching, there were some cheap shots. And what I don't like, and I agree with you 100%, the Jazz, I'd say the last, like, 2 or 3 games, well, no, last 2 games, they've been complaining a lot. Also, what's happened in those 2 games? They've lost. They've got down early. Things aren't going their way. I don't like the idea that things aren't going your way, so we're going to start complaining to the refs as if that's it. That's what fans do. Let us take care of the ref complaining stuff. Like, we'll bitch about the refs nonstop when we lose a game and blame it on them. The Jazz, but the way they got back into the game against Phoenix is they didn't complain. Donovan just put the team on his back and shot them into an overtime. And that's what you have to do. You have to match the intensity, the physicalness. You have to get going and stop complaining. I agree. I'm glad you brought that up. Rudy, especially, there was a play last night in the Phoenix game. And I should mention, we're recording this right now on Thursday morning. So it is a back-to-back. We don't know what's happened in the Portland game. So we are recording this before the Portland game. So anything could happen. We could be riding on cloud 9 this time tomorrow. Who knows? Or it could be down in the doldrums. But just in regards to the Phoenix game, there was a play in particular where Rudy was complaining and didn't get back on defense, and it led to an easy bucket on the other end by Ayton. So I agree, man. I don't like it. I don't like it. I know
you saw the one where he acted as if he was knocked unconscious, and then clearly was, I mean, I'm not going to say that didn't hurt or scare you because it looked like he got flicked in the eye, but man, you got taken out of the game because of concussion protocol. So there's a fine line to balance, right, between drawing the foul, playing it up for future fouls, and getting your ass taken out of the game, Rudy. You know, I mean, here's the thing you got to realize, and it's this way. Rudy is tough, but he's also still European. And what has been the constant sort of complaint
right.
about, European players coming over? They know how to act. They know how to fake. They're willing to be a little more dramatic, or at least that's how it feels, right? I'm not saying it's not, but that's a common complaint of modern NBA fans, is that the Europeans play a softer version of basketball. And whether they do or don't is up for, debate still, but they definitely know how to milk it. And as far as Luka Doncic, man, he's a great player, but just the way he talks a lot.
He does talk a lot.
And it's like, maybe that's, again, something I don't understand about the European player, because I've never played with a whole bunch of Europeans, but it seems Rudy talks a little bit. And if I go back and think they're, I don't know. He bugs me. He's great though. I'd want him on my team. It's just his level of talking sometimes bugs me. Maybe it's the way he does it. I don't know.
Yeah, but Joe talks all the time. Donovan talks all the time. I think that's part of the game. I don't mind it. Like,
Maybe
it's interesting you say that because
it's just because I see it now more. It's not even the talking. It's like, I don't mind the talking. It's kind of like, look, Steph Curry can talk all he wants, but the shimmy bugs me.
right.
You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing that bugs me more than the talking. It's like everyone trying to be like Mike when he was like with Portland, like, I don't know what, I'm out of my mind. You know, it's like there was a moment that was like NBA finals and he hit 6 threes in a row. Like, let's not do that game 42.
That's interesting to me because I would have thought that you would be fine with that kind of, because you're a Westbrook fan. You're a Westbrook apologist. And
now, if you go for a monster dunk, you can go and yell. There's just, I don't know. And I mean, he was on fire, so I'm fine with it. It just bugs me, maybe because it was against the Jazz and we lost.
it's just, he just seems like he's always whining. That's the thing. It bugs me. I don't know. That's fine though. You know, it's fine. Here's the thing about the Phoenix game, and let's dive into this. I'm not going to call anybody out, but I think some people should stop live tweeting during the game, because if I tweeted every thought I had during the game, my timeline would be absolutely no one. I mean, I would be kicked off Twitter, you know, because it's so, my stream of consciousness is so reactionary. I don't want it on the internet for all time. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And so I think some people should, and it's a hard lesson that a lot of people have had to learn. I think the older you get, the more comfortable you are with learning that lesson. I just see some of these fans during the game, and it was utter meltdown. Like, you would have thought we were the Minnesota Timberwolves. It was that, and some of them, and I retweeted one of them, and I shouldn't have done that. I'm not going to take it down because it does bug me, but he was complaining about how the Jazz didn't make a move. We could have made a move during the trade deadline, but no, we were cool with just letting it go. Which I hate that kind of talk, because it implies that the front office is not constantly searching out deals, is not constantly trying to make the team better and find improvements. You can't just bring in a player, and this is a guy who should know better because he writes, and is on a prominent website. You can't just bring in a guy magically. They don't just come onto your squad, unless you're the Brooklyn Nets, and then you can do that. If you're looking for a deal, you have to give up something. And if you're getting something worthwhile, you're going to have to give up something worthwhile. And my guess is the Jazz, the front office, didn't find a deal that they liked, didn't find a deal that worked for them, or that the price was too high. So they didn't do it. It doesn't mean that they're just like, oh no, screw it, who cares? It's not, that's not how it works. If you're Justin Zanuck, you are constantly on the look for a deal to do. Like, that's how they work. That's their job, is just constantly be trying to improve the team.
Yeah, I mean, look, to make a deal happen, you have to have a partner. You don't trade against yourself or with yourself.
Right.
There has to be someone available, and the deal has to be right. You don't throw away. I mean, look, Rudy and Donovan are off limits, obviously, right? So anyone bringing that kind of question to the table is immediately gone. And I think Mike Conley is at this point. Maybe if there was a someone who could shoot as well as Joe Ingles and be a little bit of a better defender, they might consider it, but probably not, because he's a glue guy. I think they filled in where they could, and with the options they had available to them. Here's one thing that bugs me, right? Now, the Jazz are going on the statistical model of dunks and threes, right?
Right.
And number of shots equating to value of the three-point shot if you take the most. Well, what is the most important idea if that's the method of thinking you use on how to run your offense?
Say that again. The most important.
There's a most important thing. If you're basing your offensive statistical analysis on number, like as many threes and as many dunks as you can have, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the numbers to be in your favor, you have to have a high number of shots.
Yes.
So what's the most important thing that the Jazz aren't doing in both their last losses?
They're not rebounding.
That's one, but they're not taking care of the ball. I mean, You saw the difference in the first and second half of the Phoenix game. 10 turnovers in the first half and they only score 40 points. A couple in the second half and they push it to overtime. Like if you're going to go on a pure statistical model, you have to have pure statistical possessions. The number of possessions has to be high because you're banking on that. Even if I'm struggling now in the first half, in the second half, I'm going to make up the difference based on my statistical odds. But you have to have the right number of possessions, whatever that may be, to make those statistics a reality.
I agree. So are you, how do you feel about the concept of the blender then? Because that style of offense will lead to more turnovers.
No, dude, these aren't, and I mean, I'm sorry, like the turnovers that the Jazz have had over the last 2 games, most of them aren't great defensive plays by the other team. There may be a few mixed in. It's carelessness, it's miscommunication, it's a lack of focus, in my opinion, in-game focus in that moment. It appears to me as though they're getting a little loose with it. I mean, and I think it's pretty obvious in the first half last night. Again, you know, we criticized it in the Mavericks game, how they sort of didn't meet the intensity with the Mavericks head on and were behind early and lost the game, right? It felt a similar kind of situation with the Suns. The Suns were amped for the game, and the Jazz didn't appear to be quite as much, at least have the focus. I don't know which it is, but it seems like they're coming out flat, at least against really good teams early on, or the 2 best teams they've played recently, the Mavs and that. And I think that's exemplified by the turnover difference in the first and second half. When Quinn can get them in the locker room, be like, do we want to win? Do we want to have a chance to win? Then we need to value possessions. I mean, obviously a shot that doesn't go up via turnover can't go in.
Right.
So,
right.
You know, I mean, I don't know. And I'm sure the Jazz coaching staff knows, you know, sort of the margin of number of possessions and shots they need to take in order to make the statistical evaluation correct. And I was going to look at this and do a deep dive. And then I said, oh, there's plenty of people who are willing to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not. But I mean, to me, it's a pure possession oriented thing. Like if the Jazz, I don't know, let me see how many turnovers they had.
They had 13.
If the Jazz have more than 12 turnovers, unless they're shooting an insane clip, the statistical numbers won't work, I don't think. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't know about the stats. Turnovers, they bother me, obviously. To me, the difference between the first half of the Phoenix game felt exactly like the Dallas game. And to me, there was one thing that first half and that Dallas game had in common, and that was the shots weren't falling. To me, it was as simple as that. Like I've heard a lot of people kind of gripe about the effort, and I other than the rebounding effort and a couple sequences of defensive plays, I kind of disagree. I think it was more the shots just were not falling. I think the effort was there. I think this, to me, in the Phoenix game, it looked like everything was how we typically play, except you just couldn't get the ball in the net. To me, that was the big difference. Then the offensive rebounding that we gave up, that's unacceptable. To me, that's unacceptable. Rudy Gobert is a super stud, right? Like he's awesome. He can't do it all though. That's the thing. He can't get every single rebound. When he's being boxed out by 2 big men, which has been happening, I'd say the last 10 to 15 games, that's what teams are doing. They are just crashing those boards and they are boxing out Rudy with multiple big guys. He needs help to get those. Bojan Bogdanovic, I know he's not a typical power forward, but that's the position. You gotta rebound. To give up 2, 3, 4 offensive boards in one possession, which leads to a score, is unacceptable. The Phoenix Suns had 25 second chance points last night. That is absurd. That is like a quarter of the points teams used to score in the old NBA. You know, like that's insane. I can't believe it. That cannot happen. Rudy and Favors need help on the rebounds. They have, and that's just an effort thing. That's all it is. Like our guards are sitting there staring at the ball while it's right in front of them and not grabbing it. Bojan Bogdanovic is just going for a little tip and not even fighting for the ball. To me, the game came down to shots and rebounding. That's what it was for me.
I mean, as they do, but I think you're hitting on something when was the effort. I mean, and you just said it. Rebounding is effort, I mean,
true. That's a good point.
I mean, giving up 16 offensive rebounds to the Suns. You're right. Totally. I mean, and losing, so it was 61-47 total rebounds. Jazz 47, Suns 16. The difference is 16, and that's offensive. I mean, literally, the exact number is difference, and we had 7 offensive. But I mean, the difference in the game is offensive rebounding. And I mean, look, the shots. I've been a long time talking about this. It's all great when you're hitting 34 to 38%
right
3-point shooting, But there are games where that is just not gonna happen, and we've seen them now, especially as the competition gets better. Teams willing to, take it to the Jazz, how the Jazz normally take it to them. I mean, none of these teams are afraid, right, of the Jazz.
Well, let me ask you this.
Aren't afraid. Neither are the Suns.
Let me ask you this about the Phoenix game. Do you think that the poor 3-point shooting was due to Phoenix's defense or just the Jazz missing shots they normally make?
I mean, and this is sort of a cop-out. Both. At times, their defense was exceptional, but at times the Jazz couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. They were wide open, And I mean, it is interesting. I don't understand. And again, I don't want to get into officiating, but the lack of consistency on the perimeter for what they allow to go and then to not go, as far as fouls on jump shots, it would be hard to play defense in the modern day. And
I don't know how anyone does.
And then one specifically that where they called an offensive foul on Royce O'Neal last night when he was just banging for a board. I mean, that just looked like two guys competing, I mean, there was no separation via the arms. So despite that, though, the free throw advantage was only 5 for the Suns. So we can't really use that as an excuse. I think, honestly, turnovers, effort, like you're talking about, rebounding specifically, when you're in a defensive position, and then missing shots. I mean, the crazy part is, and this is where I don't understand the statistical analysis. The Jazz and the Suns made the exact same amount of 3-pointers, right? If the Jazz would have shot 5 less, they shot 10 more, but if they would have shot 5 less and converted one of those 2-point buckets that are the 5 less, they win in regulation, despite all the bad things we're talking about. So there is a positive there. I mean, that clearly wasn't the best Jazz. And I think that was some of the best that you could expect to see from the Suns versus the Jazz. But it wasn't the best Jazz version, and they still took him to OT. That's just the
on the road too.
On the road.
Yeah.
Good point. That's just the sort of tweaking of the statistical dunk 2-point that I don't understand. Like, there has to be a point where the threshold isn't enough and the numbers aren't going to add. They just say, keep shooting them because eventually it'll come around. Well, it hasn't the last 2 games.
Do you think, and I know I'm not trying to besmirch all analytics guys, but do you think like the hardcore analytics guys look at Chris Paul and just say, I don't even want to acknowledge him because it destroys my entire idea of what is a good shot and what is not? Because Chris Paul, all he does is mid-range. That's it. Yep. And he's so good at it.
I mean, he'll pop in some threes, but mostly he's trying to get to that elbow, that little 12-footer. Yeah, it can work.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're a great player, like, look, Kobe didn't really change his game all that much even though he played in the advent of when threes were crazy. He'd still get right there on the block. Give me that, and I'm going to turn around on the 12-footer that you can't block. So, I mean, and Kawhi Leonard, although he shoots threes, and Michael Jordan wasn't, so it honestly, if you're looking to be like super great, the statistical people that go against it are the greatest players. So if you're Donovan Mitchell, I recommend you learn to shoot an elbow 18-footer.
You know what? Donovan's really doing well at it. Every time I see him take one of those and make most of the time one of those mid-range jumpers, I'm just thinking, man, those analytics guys are just so like they're yelling at the TV. It's a bad shot, but it goes in, so it's a good shot. I don't know the stats on his mid-range shots, but I would imagine the percentages are pretty high, and that's just from the eye test, so I could be wrong. But we got some therapy done, right? We kind of worked through our frustrations. I want to ask you now that we've done that, is this a cause for concern, what we've seen the last two games, or is it just growing pains as we try to become a contender?
Probably a little of both. Again, I sort of have, a cop out. Like the idea that the first like real teams, quote unquote, that you've seen in a while, right? Like the guys that you want to make your mark against. I mean, the last game I would say would be the Nets, but we know that the Nets weren't the Nets when we played them. So before that, we're talking March 16th as a team that you really were psyched to play coming in. I think the Mavericks and the Suns qualify in that group. They've been a letdown. So there's a concern in that regard. But I'm not panicked. I'm just needing to see more because the outcomes weren't uber, depressing as far as margin of victory. And they did show a little bit of fight and willingness to get back in it. It's just the starts, really, in both games that have left them so far behind or so far, not even necessarily by a point margin. It just seems overwhelmed. I don't know that they can't get back in and get the victory, but they're right there at the end.
Yeah, I'm not okay. Losing last night against the Suns sucks because the Suns are number 2. You're going to be fighting with them for that number 1 spot in all likelihood. That's a tough loss. Take that away. If you were to take that away, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't. I'm never going to say I'm fine with the loss, but I'd be okay with it because the Jazz have not played any. They are the. When it comes to clutch minutes, the Jazz are dead last in clutch minutes played of any team, which is awesome. Dude, that's so great. That's a good stat to have because it means you are, when you have a winning record, I should say, because that means you're blowing teams out. But the blowing teams out and blowing bad teams out does not prepare you for moments like that. It does not prepare you for the playoffs. We've been talking about this for a couple weeks now, so I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record. But if you're new here, I think we have been saying how important it is for the Jazz to be in those tough situations. And the fact that they had 2 of those tough situations right in a row, the first game was against Dallas, not as good of a team as Phoenix. They did not fight back. And frankly, I mean, they got embarrassed. I mean, I think they won, but they ended up losing by like 10 or something like that. But it was more than that for the majority of the game. Phoenix, much better team, helmed by a seasoned veteran who is very good at picking apart good teams. It was on the road, high pressure game. The Jazz did not play well, but they still fought, pushed it to overtime, and lost in overtime. I know, we don't like moral victories on this show, but that is a step in the right direction for a team that has not played clutch minutes, has not won an overtime game since 2018. Think about that. That's tough. You really need to have these minutes where the pressure is on, and you need to learn how to be able to deal with that. Donovan Mitchell seems to be able to do that. His next step, I think, is for him to get his teammates involved a little bit more. When we've been in these situations earlier in the year and we ended up winning tough games, it was because he's kicking it out to Royce O'Neal for a clutch 3 or something like that. So that's the next step. But being in these situations for a team who legitimately is fighting for a championship is not going to be bad. Those aren't wasted minutes, is what I want to say. So I know everyone's really upset after the loss, and I get it. I was too, but it wasn't the outcome we wanted. But for a loss, this is as good of a situation as we could have hoped, that they were able to fight back, and they proved that they can fight back against a good team.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think that's a good way to look at it. Like, not demoralized by any of these losses. A lot learned, right? Hopefully. We'll see. I mean, time will tell. Trailblazers tonight. It really, and you're right. Like, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot lost. You're right. And statistically, or at least from standings speaking, I mean, not statistically, the Suns game could be uber important because they haven't beaten them.
Right.
So from that, and them chomping on your heels for a 1 and 2 seed, I think most people would agree the 1 or 2 seed is most important for the Suns and or the Jazz.
Agreed.
Right. And the way things are banking out, like, who knows, man? The Clippers and the Lakers could meet in the first round and knock one of them off. Things are setting up as far as a smaller market team or a new team, meaning the Jazz or the Suns or others, even the Mavericks, if they get in, are shaping up where it could be a team that we weren't suspecting making it out of the West just because of how close it is and the injuries to LeBron and AD.
I agree. There's not much basketball left.
No.
Like 20 games or something like that. I'm not sure. So we're getting there. Let's preview the next 4. I hesitate to even preview tonight's just because by the time this airs, the game will just be hours away, and then by the time it airs on TV, it'll be in the past. But let's do it anyway. The next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are all at home, which is good news for the Jazz. But we'll preview the next 4. We got the Blazers, Kings, Wizards, and Thunder. Let's start with the Blazers. Who do you have winning tonight?
I mean, the Blazers are such a story. The injuries that they've had to overcome, like, put some respect on Dame Lillard's name, man.
Dude, as far as I'm concerned, he's the MVP.
They're 30 and 20 and in the 6th spot when McCollum was down for a long time. I mean, Nurkic, is he even playing? I don't even know. I mean, like, Dame Lillard is the boss. That's all I got to say, first of all. Like, as far as, and I realize it's probably helped that he has a little connection here to Weber State. So I kind of consider him a Utah in a weird way, even though I know he's from Oaktown, represent. I just love the dude.
Well, plus
he's like a better version of Russell Westbrook.
Exactly.
He has the same attitude, but you like him, but you don't like Russ Westbrook. This is the problem.
I don't dislike Westbrook. I think
you do. It's okay to admit it.
I think
you don't like him.
I think Dame is what Westbrook thinks he is. I think that's what it is. I mean, he's legit, man. As far as this season, is Dame your MVP?
Wow. I mean, he's definitely up there. And I don't think because of LeBron's injuries, Davis, Kevin Durant's injuries, I mean, it could be a sneaky NBA MVP year. It could be. I'd have to think about that.
As of right now, I mean, I would go Rudy Gobert because I think that. But we had this discussion. What was it, last week or the week before? Rudy is just so important to this team, but that's not what the award is. The award is most exciting and best player. Not the most.
It'd probably have to be Joel Embiid for me right now, to be honest.
Not bad. You. Yeah, that's a good point. But Dame, I mean, his attitude is also what I like because he's the kind of guy where he likes being the underdog. From what it seems like, he enjoys being in a small market. He enjoys being overlooked, and he doesn't want to go to a super team. Like, he thrives in that role. I mean, he went to Weber State, dude. Weber State. Think about that. And look what he's doing now. So to me, he's punk rock, man. Like, that's what you come from nothing and you defy all the odds and you do things your own way, and that's it. And I don't need to go play in Brooklyn to have a legacy, Like, I want my legacy to be what I've done, not where I go. And so, to me, he's awesome, dude. And
yeah, I love him. Love the dude. And I mean, what he's done with the Trailblazers, like, look, they're in the 6th spot with all those injuries. It deserves to be acknowledged. I mean, last night he didn't have a very good game, or 2 nights ago, pardon me, but being in the 6th spot at 30 and 20. With the injuries they have sustained, I mean, it's legit.
Crazy.
It's a legit win. I know people are talking Jokic MVP, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Time will tell. But as far as the next 4 games, I mean, look, Portland's always a thorn in the Jazz side. And I think part of that is Dame Lillard reminding everyone in Utah that, like, hey, I think he feels the desire to perform at a high level when he plays the Utah Jazz. Not that he doesn't every night. And then you got the Kings, Wizards, and Thunder. And the Thunder always, for some reason, are a bugaboo, despite them being completely different every time the Jazz play them. One season they'll have Russell Westbrook, the next Chris Paul, then Schroeder, and now I don't even know who, so it's hard to pick against them. But I have them going 3-1. I think they're going to lose 3 in a row, which I think would be their longest losing streak of the season, and then they're going to win 3 in a row. So I'm losing to the Blazers, winning Kings, Wizards, Thunder.
I actually am there with you. Normally, I think I might give the Jazz the win against the Blazers, but just because it's at home. But back-to-back overtime loss last night. Those legs are going to be really tired. They played a lot of minutes. Our big guys, our big names have played a lot of minutes last night. So I think it's going to be really tough. And now you're going to have to chase Damian Lillard around the court and CJ McCollum. Like, that is a tall order to do that.
And Norm Powell. They were active at the trade deadline and got Norm Powell.
That's right. So
it's a different team than they've even seen this year.
It is. I would actually, normally I think I would give the Jazz the victory, but plus the Blazers, they're just playing well, man. But it is at home, and you never know. That altitude plays with guys, and the crowd is starting to really show up for these games. So even though as limited numbers as they are, they're still showing up. So who knows, man? It could happen. It could happen. But I'm going 3-1 too over the next 4. Same loss as you, same wins as you. You were right last week. They went 2-2.
It's something interesting to look like. And tonight's game, obviously, I'm super stoked for. The Kings game, maybe not so much, but I will be interested to see sort of the fire in the belly they have against the Wizards, on that Monday at home, given what the Wizards did to them last time. I mean, that was an embarrassment, right? Like that'll be a pride game, and we'll really find out a little more. I mean, right now, I think we know who the Jazz are. They can compete with anyone night in and night out, right? It really obviously depends on their defense. And I don't mean Rudy Gobert. I mean team defense.
Yeah.
I mean Donovan and Joe and Royce performing well on the perimeter. But also so you're not looking necessarily for the play on the court. You're looking for the moments that they can grow into that championship team for the remainder of the year.
Agreed.
Obviously, if they go on crazy losing streaks, we're going to have a whole new thing to talk about. But I don't really see that. Even the losses are relatively close.
Yeah, I agree. That was very well said. I couldn't agree more. Okay, I think we've hit the Jazz. Let's move on. Let's just go right into March Madness. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's get this over with.
Rip that off.
First of all, congratulations to the Baylor Bears. I do want to say my meteoric rise from last place to 5th place is pretty much I'm gonna go ahead and say it's more impressive than winning the whole thing. I'm just gonna say that. Going from last to 5th, that's pretty impressive. Not everyone could do it, so I want to thank God. I want to thank my kids. I want to thank Jess. I want to thank you for everyone who stepped up. Way more impressive than the hemorrhoid taking home the trophy for this thing. Congratulations to the hemorrhoid. I want to play the sequence of events that played out because Nate the Hemorrhoid, if you're new to the show, he is a good friend, a listener, a consistent caller on this show, and he just won our first annual NCAA bracket. So good for him. He won it when Gonzaga hit that shot against UCLA. And he knew it too. He had it all planned out. He knew it. So I want to just play the sequence of events, and I'll play it all in audio. And for those who are watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, comment, do all that stuff. And for those who are watching on TV, you'll be able to see Nate's face immediately after this thing hit, because he took a video and sent it to us. But first, I'm going to play the sound of Gonzaga's win over UCLA, if I can find it. Of course, I navigated away from it. Here we go.
Juzang again with the ball in his hands, in the paint, floater, short, got it back, ties it with 3. Gonzaga has time to do something. Suggs for the win. Oh yes!
Immediately after, Nate sent us this video. Oh my God.
Tell me that guy doesn't need to watch some sports. Is that like a relief or what?
Oh, yeah, seriously. And if you are new, during COVID, once sports came back, Nate he's a very principled man. He chose not to watch. He chose to boycott sports for a while because he didn't think they should be playing until COVID was taken care of. But he's back watching because the vaccine's here and he's vaccinated and all that. And man, if he would have missed that, he wouldn't have been in on the bracket.
You could have been the champion.
I would have. No, yeah, I would have been the champion. Would I have been? No, I wouldn't have been.
Maybe not, but either way, you could have beat him. You would have had that over his head. Congratulations to the hemorrhoid. I mean,
yep.
Of all the people to win, I wish it wasn't him. As mean as that is to say, because like this guy is going to be talking about this. It's kind of like you and your football picks. You talk about it the rest of the year when you're wrong about everything else. And I can't really argue because you're bringing up a factual number.
That's
like
true.
He is the winner. So I can't really just be like, no, you didn't win it because you did, but you're wrong in this context. So this is what you have to look forward to. We've created a beast hemorrhoid.
Yeah, we have
a hemorrhoid of epic proportions. He will ride this till the sun comes up.
I want to give a couple real quick, and then we will be actually talking about March Madness. But I want to give congratulations to Logan Cox and Phil Sievers, both good friends of the show. They came in second and third. I feel bad for Brain the Steve, man, for Steve Merrill, because he was right there the entire time and just dropped towards the end. That sucks. But we got to do a public shaming. My brother, dude,
yes.
he had pretty much clinched last place, like in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, he took a flyer and it didn't turn out well for him.
Brandon did not. It did. Yeah, that was a rough March Madness for him. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone get so few points, to be honest with you. His max he was maxed out at 42 points, like I think since the Sweet 16 or close to it, or the Elite 8. So that's bad.
At least there were good games, B. At least there were good games for you to watch.
And one more thing I do want to say, Christian Judd, at Christian M. Judd on Twitter, he put together a Twitter bracket that was super fun to be a part of as well. I was public shamed for the majority of it because I was an idiot and I used my same bracket that I used in our challenge in his. But the meteoric rise out of last place is so amazing, and I can't believe I did it. But that was a lot of fun. And let's see, yeah, it was a blast. Well, you know what he did? He did it all by hand, dude. So
wow.
Everyone sent in their bracket, like a picture of the bracket or digital file of it, and he did it all by hand. Nuts.
Well, God bless him. I was actually thinking during the tournament how big of a deal this used to be for the person who put it on.
Yeah.
And now it's computer generated. So good on him. I mean, we need to talk about something here. The championship game was obviously a letdown, but that Gonzaga UCLA game was one for the ages, right?
Insane.
And I can't help but wonder, and I'm sure you know this as most of the country does. I think, Gonzaga obviously went through a tough matchup versus UCLA, and their legs were obviously tired. But I can't help but wonder if these two teams met in December as they were supposed to, if at least the game wasn't better on Monday night. Because it really felt like, even though they had played Kansas and a few other big dogs, it really felt like the speed and strength of Baylor was able to get in spots that Gonzaga wasn't familiar with.
Yeah.
And really made them uncomfortable. And I can't help but think, I don't know if it changes the outcome. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But at least if that COVID game in December had been played, the game wouldn't have been. I mean, I was hoping for Gonzaga to get back in it, not just because I picked them to win, just because it was starting to get boring, where you're like, this is ridiculous. After coming off that game-winning half-court heave to have this loss, like, come on, get at least a close one, right? Like, let's back it up with a good championship game. Not to be. Congratulations for the Baylor Bears. Wild.
I didn't think it was boring. I thought it was amazing because I picked Baylor, and that was my only chance to get out of second to last place.
Were you ever concerned?
Yes.
As a person who picked Baylor, like what were your, because every time I was concerned, then they would just pop off like 2 threes in a row and it would be back to 15.
Yeah, I was concerned because Baylor looked like Gonzaga. They look like what Gonzaga has been doing to teams. And I was like, there's just no way they're going to be able to keep this up and Gonzaga is not going to remember who they are. There's just no way. But they fought off every run by Gonzaga, and the Bears held on, man. It was. I enjoyed it just because I didn't have skin in the game, but I literally had bragging rights or, shaming rights on the line for this one. So I took it, man. It was fun. Super fun. While we're on college basketball, real quick, we got to mention Sean Miller is out at Arizona, and I don't think there's any surprise there. I'm just a little surprised how long it took. I thought this would have happened immediately. So I don't know if you had any reaction to that at all.
I mean, it's UA, right? Like they have held on to him despite the FBI scandal, the NCAA issues, because he was winning. And this year wasn't so much of a winning season, and he had 1 year left and it was time to go on. I will be very interested to see who they pick. Like, do you have any guesses? I mean, I'm looking right here and they say Damon Stoudemire, who's coaching Pacific. So BYU fans would be familiar with him. John Pastner, I don't know him, Georgia Tech coach. Miles Simon, LA Lakers assistant. Joe Pasternak, UC Santa Barbara coach. I'm familiar with him because of their play in the tournament. Tommy Lloyd Gonzaga. John Beeline. That would be interesting. Brian Deuter.
What about Mark Pope?
Mark Pope. That'd be interesting. What about Larry Kraskowiak?
He's free. He's got a lot of free time.
I mean, I don't. If you're gonna go former player who has coaching experience, I think they would go with people in their ranks. I mean, Damon Stoudemire's been the head coach at Pacific, and I know they're not great, but he harkens back to a time in UA basketball that's super important. I mean, this is a big hire. Look, University of Arizona is one of the flagship basketball programs of the Pac-12. I know they've been down relative to tournament, productivity the last few times they've been in, even with Ayton. They didn't get out of like the second round. But regardless, they're an important program, and if you're a Ute fan, you want them to be good. So when you beat them, it actually matters. I'll be very interested to see. I'd go with Damon Stoudemire, Mighty Mouse.
I like it. I remember him breaking the Jazz heart. I don't know why I remember these weird regular season tough losses, but I remember it vividly. I was at the game. We were up on the Blazers by 10 or maybe 8 with like 2 minutes left. And the Jazz just tanked down the stretch. Damon Stoudemire dribbles it up. He loses the ball. It dribbles off Andre Karolinko's knee, I think. Then he picks it up and drains the game-winning shot. I will never, for some reason, those type of losses stick out to me. It's rough.
Yeah, that is a rough one. He was one of the Trailblazers who always seemed to have good games versus the Jazz.
Always, man. Always. He, Rasheed Wallace, and Brian Grant.
It's a guarantee. 20-10 and 20-10 and 20-10.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like pretty much a guarantee.
And then,
every
do you
time
remember Arvydas Sabonis would stand out there and hit threes, and you're like, dude, the guy's like 7 foot tall. He's like 500 pounds, and he's hitting threes. That was a novelty back then.
And then some crazy pass from the top.
Yeah.
Like fake his, like, because he never jumped when he shot. No, he's 7 feet tall.
He didn't need to. Yeah.
So it's like he could just hold it and shoot, but also pass from the exact same position.
It's just crazy, man.
Unique player. Yeah, Stoudemire. That's who I'd like to see. But look, I mean, it's very interesting that it took him this long, and now Sean Miller's on his way with a lot of money.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard or read the statement they made about him. They made him. I mean, you would have thought this guy was John Wooden. Like, you would not have thought he was under investigation by the FBI at all. Like, it was like saying goodbye to a proud, I don't know, like they could not be prouder of him or something. It was just crazy. It's crazy to me.
That is weird.
The guy, I mean, as dirty as can be. Whatever, man. Takes all kinds, I guess.
I mean, they're all, at this point, you have to assume anyone is dirty. Like, it's really hard in my estimation.
It's true.
Even the programs I love, I have to assume they're bending the rules at some way. Because otherwise, it'd be very difficult to compete in modern day basketball.
Yeah.
Let me say this. I was wondering, one thing I wanted to discuss, and I saw Gino Ariama was in favor of it. It looks like they might be going to, or they're attempting to go to at least, the 1 year rule in women's basketball. which I mean, that's fine. Whatever, go to it. But I think right now the women's game is getting such good press that would be a mistake. The one and done, and this is just, I think, a fact. I'm not saying it's good or not, but having the one and done impact for a woman's game, I think, is negative. Whereas in the men's game, at least on the NBA side, it's positive. In big circumstances.
Sure.
I think Zion Williamson has not infected, but has imparted a new level of optimism in the Pelicans franchise that I'm not sure any one individual woman player could do or would be allowed, wouldn't be promoted in a way that would be possible. Right now, that may be a condemnation of the way the WNBA promotes their teams or is allowed to promote their teams, but I'm not sure it would be good for the overall game at all, personally.
That's a good point. I don't know, man. I don't know. The women's game right now is better than it's ever been, at least from a public relations standpoint. I mean, that tournament was epic.
For sure.
That finale was epic. And the product, honestly, sometimes I'm having more fun watching the women play than watching the men's tournament. Because the play is so awful sometimes in the men's tournament. So, I don't know, man. I'm not even nearly intelligent enough to understand whether or not that'd be beneficial to the game or not. But who knows? We'll see, man.
I mean, it clearly, in my estimation, it clearly hasn't to the men's college basketball game.
Right.
So I'm not sure why the same principle wouldn't apply to the women's.
Good point.
Right. And I don't know that it gives them any more marketing. I think they're kind of doing it for marketing power. But I think you go to UConn for 3 years, 4 years, and build up your reputation. I don't know that there's any better marketing tool than that for a WNBA player.
It's true. Very true.
I mean, I'm all for it. I just don't know that it's the best situation for what they're trying to achieve. But hey, they don't pay me to answer those questions.
They don't pay you at all.
No, they don't.
5 minutes left. This is Dog and Deuce. We are on K-Patter TV and Backcountry TV if you are in Southern Utah. Thank you for joining us. If you're on YouTube, again, reminder, subscribe, hit the like button, click that little bell also. That'll let you know when we upload new videos. We've been uploading videos more often lately too, trying to see if we can generate some views that way. Also, leave a comment. We'd love to hear what you think of the show, and love that interaction. Last thing, we got 4 minutes left. The Masters are teeing off this week. And I know people really, in fact, today, it's going on today. I know people really love it. I like Sunday. I like Sunday when it's a close match. Other than that, it's so dull. And I know people love it. And I get, when I'm golfing more, when I'm playing more, I enjoy watching it more, but I'm just not a serious enough golfer to really get into it.
I mean, I love the Masters. I do. I mean, I'm working today, so I won't be watching it all day, but I make attempts to watch it even on Thursday and Friday. But you're right. I mean, for me, the US Open is king. US Open, British, Masters, then PGA. That's sort of blasphemy in golf circles, but that's how I view it. But the Masters is special for so many reasons. I mean, I would point out today, kind of a important thing to point out. Pardon me. Sorry. I just want to make sure. Lee Elder. I don't know if you know, they have this ceremonial first tee off, and it's normally legends. It's always been Player and Palmer and Nicklaus. Now with Palmer gone, I don't remember who it was in November, but they added Lee Elder, who was the first African-American to play at the Masters on the first tee. So that's something cool. But it's the Masters, and it sort of signifies the beginning of summer. If I had to pick one person, I'd probably go with Dustin Johnson to repeat from November to April. What a weird scenario.
Yeah.
He's playing well.
Yeah. I think that's I don't want to say safe, but I think that's a good bet. I like Dustin Johnson. Who's the dude who's swinging like a crazy man?
Bryson DeChambeau.
That was odd watching him. Is he good?
He's like a mad scientist.
Is he good?
Dude. Oh yeah, he's good. He's like top 5 in the world.
Okay, so it's not just Happy Gilmore where he can hit the ball far and he's a novelty.
No, he won the U.S. Open last year. He's won a lot of tournaments. He's very scientific. All his clubs are the exact same length, which is very uncommon. Like, I don't know if you know, your 3 irons longer than your 7 iron.
That I do know.
But all his are the same length, and he just swings as hard as he can. He did say he has a special weapon. I guess it's a longer driver. Doesn't matter if you don't hit fairways and can't putt. The greens are the ultimate equalizer, right?
Yeah.
At Augusta. That's kind of their crazy thing where you see crazy putts and crazy chip shots. Fun to watch. I'd recommend watch it. Let me tell you something I'm currently experiencing. What kind of tennis shoes do you wear?
Just like Vans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do those have a lot of cushion?
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not doing a whole lot of athletic stuff while I'm wearing them, but yeah.
So I switch shoes very infrequently.
Me too.
I ride or die, and then they become lawn mowing shoes. And I wear sandals and slippers as much as possible as well. But I just yesterday put on a new pair of shoes that I bought like a month into quarantine, still in the box.
Okay.
Got them out. I decided finally that my old shoes it was time to go to lawn mowing status. And I'll tell you, it's like walking on air.
Really?
Like, why can't shoes have this kind of cushion? Either I'm too fat or we need to work on this. We're putting rovers on Mars. Like, it's like I've been walking on clouds for the last 48 hours.
My guess is probably your shoes have been so old that you've been wearing that you've worn the soles down and forgot what it's like to have good cushy soles. That's my guess.
It's clear because this is like life altering. Like, if you've seen me walking around the last few days, it is literally like nothing can bother me. I look just like I've had 3 drinks and I'm cruising. It's just because it's like I'm walking on air.
Walking on sunshine.
Amen.
Nice.
Amen.
Dude, what shoes are they?
They're like some Nike trail running shoes. I don't even know.
Huh.
Here, I'll pull them off. You can see.
Yeah, I might have to grab some of those, man.
These right here.
Ooh, those are good looking too.
They're a little more jazzy than I'd like.
See, I like the jazzy. The red, which I'm surprised you have. They're red. They're yellow.
So truth be told, I wanted the beige ones. My wife bought these as a surprise quarantine present. I'd have gone more with the tan. She went with the cayenne.
Well,
so I'm trying to be grateful.
She's a smart one.
Grateful.
She's the smart one of the duo.
Yeah. Well,
she chose well.
She did marry me. That's true.
No one's perfect.
That's very true.
All right, that is going to do it for episode 363 of Dog and Deuce. Thank you for joining us. Subscribe. Find us on YouTube. I didn't even mention the YouTube channel name, youtube.com/DD on sports. Hit us up. Let us know what you think of the show or anything going on in the world of sports or anything going on in your lives. You have a new pair of shoes you love? Hit us up. Let us know. Until next time, we want to hear what you think. Send us an email to dogandeuce@gmail.com. I'm Dog.
And I'm Deuce.
And we will talk to you next week.
Thanks for making us a part of your day.